so, if I want to, I mean, is it logical to think like this? If I think about the past several years, all right, so, I mean, two graduate degrees in education, and and a lot of involvement in community before I moved states, and yeah, and then being rejected so disgracefully. All right, I mean, I know I'm not important. I mean, everyone is. Everyone matters. But I think, all right, I mean, I must have a job. I don't think it's a paying job, but I must have a role, a job, something to teach, something to help teach. It is requiring a huge amount of patience, but teaching does require patience. Teaching in the classroom, I mean, yeah, you have to have a certain amount of patience. If I think about my first graduate degree in adult education, well, yeah, I mean, adults can certainly be harder to teach than children. All right, so if I sit and I think, and it's like, wow, I'm over 7.5 years into it, and there's history that I don't know. And, but I mean, I know quite a bit of history. I'm always learning to, but I think, what exactly could it be? I mean, have I been tasked with teaching something, or is it just something, I mean, I don't know quite how to think about that. But again, I have a ton of patience, a ton of patience. I mean, sometimes it's too much. It's too much patience, and I just kind of wait for people to start to realize, but some people just don't. They don't care. And when I think back some years, quite a few years, and I think about behavior then, very harmful. I mean, I almost feel like I could make up song lyrics, about whatever these circumstances are. I was thrown away. I ain't fucking disposable. Humans, I mean, we matter. We're social. Not only do I have a couple of graduate degrees in education, I also taught science, including a little bit of physics. And I'm not that good at solving physics problems, but I mean, I do have to allow myself to just. I don't really want to feel it because it feels so bad, and yeah, it angers me too. I think about persons from, you know, when I was sort of college age, and that know the guy that raped me, and that they're okay with it. They don't have a problem with that. I mean, they're party buddies and shit like that. I have a problem with that for sure. And I think about my dad, and and I guess I remind myself that when people are like that, they ain't worth the least bit of thought or attention. You know, when somebody like that bumps into trouble, that ain't my fucking problem. All right, so so yeah, patience, patience, and yeah, the isolation is having an impact on my health. What I refuse to be is an example of what tech can do to a person as far as, well, loss of conscience, the lethal harm, and it can be. I mean, wow. I think what I would wish is that there's some real quick history lessons that can be taught that I don't really have the ability to teach. But I must be here to do something at least somewhat important to help, perhaps to help adults learn. Well, I I remind myself on a daily basis. I think it's a daily basis. And if it's not daily, some days it's more than likely more than once a day. I have to remind myself, you didn't do this to yourself. This was not your choice. And a person might say, well, you made bad choices. You made bad choices and karma and shit like that. You know, a person might say, you made bad choices. I was there, I could say, as needed. And and I do think that one of the best descriptions for what happened was being fired from my job as a live-in maid. All right, so, and I do think, and it's not a bad idea to think about that historically. What happened to people? You're not useful anymore, so we're doing this. I mean, I could talk about, you know, slave times, you know, people being sold and women being sold and they no longer could no longer, you know, I mean, Jesus Christ, you know, women were used to make more humans to sell and exploit. All right, so a woman could no longer do that. You know, she might be sold to someone else. All right, so yeah, there's some history. You know, that is real. History is continuous. And some places where people are living could be right smack in the middle of, you know, where that was going on. All right, so meanwhile, so yeah, you know, I just really, you know, I'm reminding myself. One of the really hard things is when I worry about people, you know, so I think about the old boyfriend that I got worried about maybe last year. He came to mind, and I'm like, I got on LinkedIn again to try to get in contact with him, and I'm like, is he okay? Well, I can't let myself worry because I don't know, you know, I mean, I've done what I can to be in contact with him. I mean, I make an effort. But it's hard when someone comes to mind and I know from experience that maybe I should have concerns. And and I can't do anything but pray, really. And is that going to make a difference? You know, what's happened? Just things cut into little bits. And socially, and people just, yeah, making it, you know, got that career, whatever it is, and pushing people down and shit like that. Well, I mean, I'm thankful to come from some working class roots. And I think working class is a mild way to put it. I'm thankful for that. You know, I suppose that's why some people don't like me. But again, I must have some things to teach. I just think about so many people our age who have died of overdose and just the extreme stress. We were born during a war, and there's just a lot that people carry. And yeah, you know, so, well, again, I must have something to teach. And, you know, because I think about those degrees in education. And, you know, adult education can be anything at all. You know, I just think there's got to be something, you know, there's got to be something that kind of comes around. But yeah, well, if anyone else needs the encouragement, you know, I mean, when we are not wanted, when people treat us as though we are not needed, not wanted, well, just, you know, you're too good for that shit. And just hold on. And, you know, when we're in these positions where shit's been done to us and, you know, and it's not a choice, yeah, I'm isolated and it's not my choice. What am I supposed to do? Go out and find it? Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, really, it's so bad. You know, um, well, you're too good for whatever shit you're being deprived of. How about that? You're too good for whatever that is, and we just have to hold on. Just have to hold on, and I think when we live through shit like this, we just kind of know, if we ever had high expectations, we learn to have moderate expectations. I don't want to say low. I think, I mean, again, I think about, maybe there are things that we were taught not to do. And have talked about this plenty. We were taught not to da da da. I think about things that are doing harm. I think about, you know, um, the way that we're taught to not cross certain lines. I'm not talking about socially. I mean, I feel like, well, sometimes you're not allowed to because there's something where people just think they're too good for you. All right, so you're not allowed to cross the line socially. I'm talking about spiritually. I don't know how to. I will say it again. All I know how to do is say prayers of healing and protection. All right, so I mean, I don't know how to do shit, but I think about that, and I think about, well, when things really reach a point and you've been taught not to do things like that, what's the harm in it? I mean, every cultural tradition has something like that in it. And, I mean, of course, we're always wanting to be careful. I mean, there are things that, of course, we would never do. But I just think about things that we were taught not to do that are not bad. How about that? Like, really bad. Like, there's some things where, of course, you would never do that. But, does that make sense? I don't know. Well, anyhow, yeah, yeah, for sure I have shit to teach. 2 graduate degrees. Did I do that for fun? I mean, and I'm going to say this again. Anyone that disrespects my ass deserves something more than like soap in their mouth. I mean, I don't fucking know what a person like that needs. I think about all the corporal punishment some of us grew up with. And a person like that didn't grow up with shit like that, and even if there was some punishment, that person can kiss my ass. And I mean, I hope I inspire other people to feel that way too.